Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard Shift Talk Show. My name is Emmy, and you are listening to the greatest talk show that ever has been, is, and ever will be. And as promised, I have with me tonight the illustrious AMIR SHEIKH, the creator and founder of the brand new social platform for change, fact-based news source platform 4B. Now, before we bring AMIR on, I want to tell you a little bit about this guy. So AMIR, as I said, is the founder of 4B. That's number 4 and the letter B. It's a social platform that brings together both sides of controversial news and topics. The purpose of this platform is to basically combine opposing views together in a fact-based, short-form, intuitive platform, which, hopefully will ultimately bring people together. Now, this might sound a little bit like some things you might have heard of, but I assure you, it is not. So I asked AMIR a little bit about this, and what he was telling me was that basically 4B is designed to be a platform for change, and it's an interactive app. But you know what? Why am I telling you about this? I needed him to tell you. So AMIR, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. We are happy to have you. So AMIR, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what was the reason, what brought you to make this app?
Yeah, thank you. So I think this happened over the last few years of my life. I come from a completely different background, business background, and probably just like everybody else, I just got frustrated with the news and media, and then as social media just continues to grow and people getting false information, I just got tired of hearing it, and I got tired of complaining. And so I said, I can either be part of the solution or, stay quiet. And so that's where 4B and the idea was born.
Great. And so did you develop this app yourself, or did you have someone else come in and develop it for you?
Yeah, no, it's an outside team that I'm using, and we're actually still under major development. But yeah, I don't have a technical background or a development background, so I had to hire somebody to do that. I have a small team of editors and a larger team of writers because all of the content is original specifically for our platform.
Great. And who provides the content?
So we do. I have a group of writers that depending on the topic. So we have 15 categories right now, from beauty and fashion to science and sports and U.S. news. So depending on what the user subscribes to, we provide content within that category. And all of our content is what kind of is a little bit unique is that it has to be controversial. So it doesn't have to be political. So for example, if it's sports, it's obviously there's plenty of controversial plays and calls and things like that. But there has to be, something controversial that represents two major sides.
Right. I mean, man, did you see that baseball game over here with our Rays and the Dodgers and how that ended last time? And it was like, that was crazy, that walk-off. I don't know if you saw it, but man, that was crazy. Let's talk about controversy.
Right, yeah. And there's, the good part is even for like fashion, for example, or for health, there's so much, around our lives. And, we really want to capture what people are thinking and, bring, like you mentioned, bring them together. And, I think today our issue is not, lack of information. It's the format and medium, and people just aren't listening, and they're listening to what they want to hear and what they already believe. And, the problem with that is unless you have it all figured out and everything, it's very likely that you have an incomplete picture. And so, hopefully we can provide that within the platform and get people to talk to the other side and listen to the other side.
So then how before we get into that a lot more, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So how exactly did you come about this? So you brought this team together, and how does that come about? I mean, do you just basically tell them what you want it to look like, what you want it to sound like? And I mean, I'm assuming that, because I've looked into making apps myself, and they're expensive, man. I mean, you got to have investors, you got to have programmers, all kinds of stuff. So, I mean,
yeah. Yeah, no, it is very expensive. I think for me, I'm bootstrapping it still, and I am purposely trying to stay away from investors as long as I can. I have done enough research to know that as much as somebody says, "Hey, just take my money and do what you want," it just doesn't work that way. And so I want to kind of keep the creative control and direction of the platform itself. But yes, it is very expensive, and it's a huge bidding process that you have to go through to even find the right person. The cost is not only the dollar sign to complete the project, but making sure you have something that works and that's going to be successful. And so, let's say you get the cheapest bid, but if that's not going to get you what you want, then you just wasted all your money, obviously. So, but it's a continual process, from the beginning. The idea of bringing opposing sides together is at the core, but how it executes, how intuitive it is for the user, and ultimately, because we do target a younger demographic, the social demographic, they have to figure it out within a few seconds how to use everything. And if they can't, then it doesn't matter how great our platform is, how much functionality it has, or how great the content is. If they can't really catch on right away, it's not going to take off. So we really have to focus in on a lot of different metrics and continue to evolve and get feedback from users, and really give something to the readers and the users that they organically want, not something that I have to pay for marketing or have to force it down or shove it down their throat. They have to really enjoy the platform. And so that's really where the focus is.
And, it's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the things that has changed in recent times is the fact that a lot of companies are, like you said, shoving down the throat the marketing, especially on Facebook and social media platforms like that, where basically you can't scroll one thread without seeing a Facebook ad, probably for something that you never even cared about. And, it's like, okay, yes, I'm going to vote. Oh my gosh, shut up already, Facebook. And, so the fact that you have something that would grow with the users, that's novel. That's that's what Facebook started out as. That's why it grew, is because they grew with the users, and that's
right.
how, Go ahead.
Yeah, it's different strategies. I mean, I think that, right now it's just when you have a limited budget and we're spending on so much, growing the platform, the infrastructure, people, all of that. I don't have the, millions and millions of dollars to spend on marketing. And so it is a successful strategy. Once you have something that works, you just spend the money and you scale, and eventually you get enough people that'll be interested. But I think for us, it's more of a grassroots and making sure that, again, at the core, once people organically not only use the platform but share it, that's a key. Is they on their own want to share it with their own friends and family. That's when you have a winning strategy, and then from there, then you just put money in marketing at that point. But if you do it now, you just, like you said, you don't want to shove something down that somebody doesn't want. You're just wasting money at that point.
Right. And since we're mentioning about how organic it is and how interactive it is, will you give us a little idea of, so how would a user interact with this app exactly? I mean, you mentioned about them sharing it, but what other ways can they interact with it?
Yeah, so just one thing before I begin. Hopefully we're slated for December. We're going to have some major enhancements to the platform. Right now we are live. We're on App Store. We're on Google Play Store on the web. But these enhancements will be huge on the social side. So right now, when you log on, you create an account. You basically subscribe to certain categories. You'll be able to look at articles that interest you. And then you'll be able to vote and comment. But it's relatively basic. Everything works. Moving forward, it will really tie back to your profile. So it'll be similar to like an Instagram, except that it's focused on important issues. And so if I look up your profile on 4B, I'll be able to see your activities and how you vote and poll on important issues, not, what you ate for dinner or what you look like or how much money you have. Like those things aren't relevant on the platform. It's really about your brain. On top of that, it's kind of a little difficult to describe, especially if somebody hasn't been on there. But with the new enhancements, let's say if you take a poll and you say, you know what, I think the Earth is flat. I don't know where you stand on that, but if you say yes, that'll pop up somewhere. I'm assuming you think the Earth is round, but just giving you a hard time. If you say that, it'll show up on somebody's feed, so the people who are following you, so there's followers following, and I can directly click on that, and then I can engage with you and say, hey, Emmy, why did you say the Earth is flat? And, just start a conversation, literally, and everything is one click away, and so It's very intuitive. But again, it's just focused on not only consuming content that is created by us, so it's fact-based, it's short form, and we really encompass what the majority of people believe on that particular view, and then you can engage with it. And then, we also are introducing kind of a rewards program where you'll be able to, based on your interactions with the app, based on how you refer other people, you'll be able to accumulate rewards and redeem that for additional functionality within the platform. You'll be able to redeem that for merchandise. And so it's really kind of a gamification, a strategy that's going to be implemented in this, again, news and media content platform, which nobody else is doing. A lot of it, again, is just focused on making it intuitive, one click away, so that people can figure this out without having, me or anybody else explain to them what the concept is.
Okay. I mean, and by the way, just so you know, I think the Earth is actually triangle shaped. I mean,
Oh, okay.
Nobody
I did not know that. Okay.
Nobody could tell
You're the
me
first
any
person
different.
That's a new theory. I never heard of that. Yeah.
or maybe
I thought it was just flat and round. That was it.
Flat and round, and that's it, right? I mean, shoot. What?
Yeah.
Us triangle people can't have a voice? I mean, what the hell? Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I have a question about that. So I think it's interesting you talking about how people can go into the app, users can go into the app, and then interact with others based on what they think and what they comment. Well, right now, people can do that on Facebook, but what almost always ends up happening is that, let's say, just for the example, especially with what's happening currently with this election, which you want to talk about controversial, holy crap.
Right.
Let's say somebody comes out and says, oh, I'm going to vote for Trump. Well, if someone that is one of their friends didn't realize that they were a Trump supporter, and they might be a very emotionally charged, liberal, they might say, hey, John, what the hell, dude? I thought you were a friend of mine. Right. Why the hell are you voting for that guy? And, on Facebook, that will almost immediately turn into a block and a report. And, more than likely an insult thing. So, I'm curious, how would you, because there's a danger in doing that, and it would basically be, well, how do you prevent that from happening and instead have the users engage in a intellectual but safe debate? So you would have, okay, I see that you're for Trump, but this is why I'm for Biden, or vice versa.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think that it's possible, especially once you get to a certain level of users, that you can, 100% control that. Otherwise, it's not a freedom of speech and it's not a free open platform. So, but there are things that you can do. And I don't know if this is a good analogy, but, when most people are at home or with friends at home, you act a certain way at dinner. But if you go to a really, really nice restaurant where you dress up and exact same people, exact same friends, you're going to act differently. You're going to speak differently in a different tone and all of that. There's no rule that you can't. You can act say the same words, but I think that you can create an environment where you can kind of encourage and limit that. And so, again, I'm not sure if that was the best analogy that just came to the top of my head, but there's a lot of things that we'll do and we'll have in place within the platform to, encourage that productive debate. Now, as far as censorship, we're definitely going to adopt the First Amendment,
right. Okay.
really wholeheartedly. So as long as somebody's not attacking a user or, calling for violence or something like that, if someone says, hey, you know what, Trump is this or Biden is this, you talk about it. You guys are there. We're not, we're neutral as a platform, and that's very, very important for everybody that works under this, within the platform, is that, I understand everybody's human. I have my own views as well, but they're not to be implemented in any way or within the platform. We stay neutral, and that's our job, is to make sure that each side and each view gets equal representation and equal opportunity to speak. Now, the rest of it is up to the users. If the users think, hey, Trump is better or Biden is better in your analogy, then it is what it is. But both sides got equal opportunity. Nobody got cheated, or it wasn't unfair for everybody. So ultimately, to answer your question, is that we stay neutral as a platform. We make sure everybody gets equal opportunity, and that as long as nobody crosses that violence or personal attack line, I think that all of the features and all of the functionality will point towards and will incentivize you through the rewards program that, hey, you know what, if you want more rewards and you'll get medals for that and you'll be able to redeem merchandise, things like that, then you can go ahead and say your ignorant things. You're just not going to advance. You're just going to stay back. And so we're indirectly kind of encouraging you to, make positive comments and have positive interaction, so that, you're incentivized, to do that. So you can't force it, and we're not going to force it, but we're going to put things in place, or we have things in place to encourage people to have productive discourse versus, what we see all over social media today.
Right. So instead of me saying, hey, you're a fat jerk, that won't get me anywhere. Not only just will it not get me anywhere in the argument, but I won't get none of those nice little rewards or whatever. But if I could just say, hey,
exactly.
I disagree with you for these reasons, that's different. Now, I tell you, and doing the neutral thing, I mean, first of all, I applaud you for that. I try very hard to, be as balanced as I can in my show. I mean, first of all, when this show started out as a political show, and I just didn't really like how I felt doing it, because I honestly, I had a very toxic business relationship with this, who I didn't realize was a conservative media platform online. And I don't know why. I guess maybe I just didn't do my research. And I started noticing that they were bringing me all these heavily conservative, guests. And listen, I don't have any problem with their political points of view, whether you're conservative, liberal, whatever. But I started noticing that there was no one from the other side of the aisle, and I wanted to interview everybody. I wanted to give a platform for everyone. And I realized, I didn't feel that great, doing it, so I stopped and I started doing entertainment and whatever. But my point in talking about that is that it was very difficult for me to go down just straight to the center without veering to the left or the right, especially if my guest was definitely one way or the other. It's like I try to keep all my guests welcome and not necessarily agree with them wholeheartedly unless I do, but just at least to give them a bouncing off point that's a positive bouncing off point. And that's very difficult to do a lot of times while staying center. Let me ask you this, Amir. So how exactly are you guys going to have or do you have a vetting process? Because I noticed that, a lot of the stuff that you're going to have on there is news. It's going to be fact-based. So how exactly do you fact-check all these things before you post them?
Yeah. So all of our writers, they're all independent contractors. But, so all of them are vetted. We go through an interview process, submission process. There's a process for them to even get approved. And then we have a small editing team, and we have a format they have to follow. They have to cite and reference, but it goes on the editing side. So first of all, the writers know what to expect, and they're supposed to submit, what we agreed on, and then it gets double checked. And then a lot of the fact box stuff, we handle that internally, again, to stay neutral. But it's just a process and verification and double verification to ensure that all of the content is fact-based and it's cited, and we're not putting out misinformation into the ether, or our name is attached to it, so it's very important. If we're
Right.
complaining about social media, we can't be doing the same thing. So it's our
Exactly.
reputation on the line. It's a reputation, and there's two writers on each article. Obviously, each opposing side, so they're kind
Wow.
of each get one side, but a lot of times they use the same fact, but it's just they go a different angle, and they use
that's
yeah.
different. Yeah, I like that. I like that you're giving a topic. Every article gets both sides of the story, and that's not something that you see very often on the same platform.
No,
You really
and that's
don't.
where the equal representation comes on. Each writer gets the same opportunity on the same exact article and so when you read on it, whether it's news or whatever you're interested in, you're exposed to the other side in that article, in short form, in fact base, and so you can see right there. And I just think that's very much missing today, where people are again tuned in not only through the media or social media, but even through friends. A lot of times we make like-minded friends or like-minded, and if we don't, we either don't spend as much time, don't listen to them, or don't take it seriously. And so again,
Right.
we're not exposed to the other side.
And it's funny, exactly. I mean, it used to be in the old days, it used to be that when you turned on the news, it wasn't one side or the other side. It was just the news. You didn't have to worry about the reporter getting politically biased. You didn't have to worry about, oh man, here they go. Here's another, promotion for whoever, candidate X.
Right.
And, it was like, Walter Cronkite. You never had to worry whether Walter Cronkite was right or not, because he was. He was always fact checked, and he never reported on anything that was not 100% verified. He was the most trusted anchor, period. And then came Dan Rather, and a lot of people would argue that Dan Rather was heavily left. And you know what? Yeah, in a lot of ways, especially later in his career, yes, he did veer left. But even when he did, he wasn't so left that he completely ignored the right. When he was the reporter, he actually really was the reporter. He said, here's the news, this is where we got the facts from, judge for yourself. And that's, so I think now it's gotten to the point where you turn on the news and it's like you said, it's either Fox News or CNN, left or right. It's really a shame. It's kind of created this schism. It's a really big one too, and it's refreshing to see that there's somebody there like yourself that's trying to say, okay, let's get back to basics here. So that's I think you guys have got a really challenging uphill climb, and it's going to be hard.
Yeah,
it's really going to be hard.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that your point is definitely valid. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I don't think it comes down to the people. It's the environment and the monetization. These are giant media companies that make a ton of money, and so they have investors and they're driven by profits, and so everything is connected to that. And I think one of the biggest I don't know what the right word is, but when we look at the past, we like to compare them based on today's standards. And, it goes both ways too. Sometimes we look at people, oh, they didn't know very much back then, or they weren't very smart back then or whatnot. I mean, the people within the last couple thousand years are generally the same genetically. It's just our environment is different. And so, the reporting back then obviously was limited depending on how far back you go. And, people stole, people did stupid things, or people were jealous, or they did all of that back then. It's just maybe a lot of it we didn't see, or is in a different form. And now a lot of the things you do, it's like front and center. You say one little thing wrong, one little letter wrong, and you're blasted.
Yeah.
Where before,
you're 100%
you could literally
right.
get away with murder in some cases. And so,
Yeah, I mean, because in the past, it used to be that you would just shouting against the wall. And no one would care. You'd be like, oh, I hate such and such, and nobody would give a damn. Now you say, I hate such and such, and they're like, wait a minute, I like such and such, cancel, you're done. And it's created. Right. I personally believe, I mean, in fact, it's just interesting because I'm one of our first digital video episode for our new digital series is going to be about entertainment and how the Family Entertainment Center has changed and how social media has infiltrated that. And one of the things that I think is amazing, and I don't know, sad not sad, it depends on how you view it. The whole quote unquote cancel culture is this term that's being thrown around right now. That, in my opinion, was created by this massive social media juggernaut, and not just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat.
Well, it's technology in general.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's technology in general. You can put it under that umbrella.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the problem, I think, is that there's a disconnect. Yeah, there's a disconnect between intentions and consequences.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of times where I disagree with cancel culture, but I understand where the frustration and the emotions and all of that come, where people want to cancel. But the problem is, we got to get down to the facts, and there's like perception, and obviously, it's very misleading. And so I don't think that the people who are canceling are doing so maliciously. I think they actually are doing it for a positive reason. The problem is, it's not accurate. And, that's why we have a process and we have due process. And, you see people get wrongfully convicted all the time. And it's just, and that's with the court system where you have a jury and judge and, everything is laid out. And so if they make mistakes, what do you think it is on, social media, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened.
But that's where the problem is because the intention is good and it still comes out bad is where the problem lies.
Yeah, I mean, just very quickly, look at what happened with the Central Park Five. I mean, that's a perfect example, And I think one of the earliest examples, in the 90s at the very least, that showed how absolutely, unbelievably viral and toxic and in good and bad ways that our connectiveness has gotten is when the OJ trial was finally, that was like cable TV was in its infancy. And that showed, oh my gosh, people actually care about a trial. They actually want to sit and listen to this trial. And, court TV, that was also in its infancy. And that showed that people will actually sit and listen to this stuff. And now we've gotten to a point where we are so connected to our devices that, you mentioned how genetically we're the same. Actually, I think in a lot of ways we've changed. And at some point in the next 10 years, we are not going to be the same species anymore because there's this argument that I've been listening to. It's actually really interesting, although I don't want to get too wrapped up in it. But the futurists believe that at some point humanity is going to be so interconnected with tech that we're going to be, indistinguishable from it. And, I don't want to say we're going to be walking around looking like Terminators, although I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. There's already proof, signs of integration, although not like you mentioned with the Terminator. But, if we just got rid of our phones today, we don't realize how dependent we are from banking to is because it's just a part of our lives. But once we start integrating that more into, let's say, our physical bodies, it's going to make a difference. It's going to make a significant difference. Yeah.
Amir, the other day, I saw a person jogging down the street, and I know this isn't anything new, but they had one of those wristbands, and it had a phone in it. And at first I thought, did that person just have surgical, did they install a phone surgically into their arm? Because that's what it looked like. And there's already projectors that project the phone video on your arm. So I don't think there's I think at some point, it sounds crazy, but I think at some point we are going to see people with phone implants. Mark my words.
Well, I think it's going to be more than that, I think. But just like with anything in life, there's benefits and then there's consequences. With technology and social media, there's great benefits, right? Networking, connectivity, transfer of information. There's so many things for good. The problem is it comes with consequences, and you have to balance that. And today, it appears as though there's more consequences than benefits. I do think that there's waves as well, and things go back and forth and so on. And there's an invisible hand that gets us to equilibrium. We'd like to hope, but today I think what we're seeing is on the other negative extreme end with technology and social media, and hopefully it'll start to balance out. We'll start to see the negative effects that this generation, in the last 20 or so years that grew up, we don't know what the negative biological or health consequences are going to be over their lifetime, because there hasn't been a generation that grew up that way. And so this is kind of paving new territory. We'll see over the next, 50 to 100 years what the consequences of that will be.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, there's just hope, like you said. I hope for the positive. I really do, because I worry about my children, and I see them how connected and quite frankly addicted they are. And it's, we try very hard to set limits. We tell, okay, you can play on devices, but only for this long. And I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm a child of the 80s and actually late 70s too. And we had technology, we had entertainment, but we couldn't take it with us everywhere. Not really.
Right.
I mean, we had kind of sort of thing, like we had the Game Boy, we had we had the early mobile phones, but they didn't have games. I still remember when the mobile phone came out with a game. I'm like, what? Why are you going to play a game on a phone? What the hell? That's not what a phone is for.
Right.
So,
right.
now I tell
No, I grew up in the 80s.
There you go. No, that's okay. Yeah, so you understand.
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s as well. But, I think, again, it's just, I would prefer to play outside than play video game, because
Absolutely.
Our video games were like so basic. I mean, they were fun, but, if I grew up today, I probably wouldn't elect to play outside. I would probably prefer to, play those games, because they're really, really, really engaging. And so, but it goes back to, again, like I think there's certain benefits, and, like people are always into organic or natural, or, if there's a choice between natural and man-made, they go natural. And
right.
I'm not sure if that's always the best way. Like, it's clear that man dominates, humans dominate the world, and it's because of our, intelligence and our brain and what we're able to, engineer or cut corners with nature. And so we're successful at it. But again, it's just balancing those consequences. And,
right.
I think that's where people, when they only get part of the information, that's when it becomes damaging. I truly believe if people have the complete picture as a society, as humans together, we'll go the right way. But when you only have partial information, that's equivalent to censorship, right? When you only have part of the information. And we have the whole majority of the population who has censored information, even though we live in a free society, they're only getting part of the information. And so it's in effect, it's censorship. It might be self-inflicted in many ways, but that's really what that is. And I want to kind of, get rid of that censorship, even though it's not a government mandated. It definitely is there. And if you go from political to sports to any one of the categories that we have, and you ask most people, what do the other side believe on this specific topic or this issue, they wouldn't be able to tell you, and that's a problem.
It is.
We make fun of the flat earthers, and I believe the Earth is round, but
no, I was just going to ask you.
Have a lot of respect. Yeah, I actually have a lot of respect for some of the flat earthers, not because, even though I disagree with them, because they actually question and they did some research. Now, I disagree with their conclusions, but they took the effort. Whereas majority of the round earthers, I might not actually respect their position, even though they agree with me, because they haven't done any research. It's just because that's what they saw on TV, and that's what they grew up on. That's what they grew up. I don't really respect that. And they say it as a matter of fact. Of course, the Earth is round. Well, how do you know?
Prove it.
Well, because you were told that. Yeah. And so I think that's how life is that we go by emotions and we go by connections that, we believe this person or this person's character or what their ideologies is, and not the facts. And I think we need to get more on the facts and not, you can disagree with somebody, that's fine, and that's healthy, and that's how we got here. But in order to disagree, you have to listen first.
Right.
You can't just say, I don't agree with Emmy without listening to what Emmy has to say.
Right. You're 100%
and that's
correct.
Unfortunately where we're at.
Yeah, you're right. I cannot disagree with that one bit. You're absolutely right. We've gotten to the point where all we do is wrong, fake news, wrong, instead I'm like, well, why? Why is it fake? Why is it wrong? You're fat, you're ugly, I hate you. I'm like, dude, that's not an answer to the question. You're just insulting me.
Right.
So really quick, Amir, one of the last question I wanted to ask you, and by the way, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule for this interview.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm very happy to. Which, by the way, guys, you will be hearing AMIR. As part of our interview is going to be on the digital episode, actually, because we're going to be, like I said, the episode's going to talk about this and also. Where do you see, if you may, where do you see like news and entertainment going in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, if somebody were to ask you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think we are, I believe in kind of that invisible hand, as long as you're not, purposely regulating or controlling or censoring. And I think that, most people are not dumb as individuals. We are dumb as a group per se, in the social world, but as individuals, we're not dumb. Everybody's, and I think that people will figure it out. And what it will take is it will take a bunch of revelations. So it'll take a bunch of times where people will say, hey, I was wrong about that, or my group was wrong about that. And the other side will say the same thing, because all sides are making the same equivalent number of mistakes. There's not, when we try to attach intelligence or IQ to ideologies, that's very, very, naive. We're in general, we're all about the same. And so I think that once we have a few incidences, I think that there will be some pushback, and it's a slow process. It takes time for people to change. I personally believe people change two ways. One is it's a traumatic event, and it's traumatic to that individual. So it could be a car accident, it could be a loved one that they lost, and people can change their ideology. Or the other way is it takes a long period of time. It might take years, but people do change. In my opinion, in one of two ways. And so I think in this way, over the 5 or 10 years, if there's enough incidences that are exposed that make people question, like, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right, then as a group we will change. But it will take time, or there has to be a catastrophic event, and I can't think of one. Let's say meteor knocks out all our satellites. I don't know what it is, but if there's something like that, it'll change sooner.
Hey, man.
Otherwise,
it's 2020, man. Don't talk about a meteor.
Yeah, right. I mean, it could be anything. Right. Like I said, I mean, I think that, but that's so. I do think in the invisible hand, when you take a step back, because we look at things day to day, month to month, maybe year to year.
Yeah.
Well, we don't look further than that when we talk about these issues. And so, if you look at the 20th century specifically, we had the greatest amount of pain, suffering, death, all of the negative things within that century. But we also concurrently had the greatest number of progress, happiness, growth, all of the positive things, technology within that same time, medicine within that same time period. And so I think that if you want to look at it, you can look at it from whatever perspective and find what you want to find, but you got to look at the whole picture. And I think that when you step back, I think it's much clearer that, hey, you know what, maybe it's not this way, maybe it's not this way, maybe it's something else that I'm not recognizing. And I truly do think that is happening. Even with this COVID situation, with all of the missteps from every single group and every single person, I think that this is a learning experience as a planet. And I truly think that we're I'm an optimist, and I do think that we're going to come out some way or another, with landing on our feet. And yeah. I think that this is a necessary step, just like some of the wars, unfortunately, yeah. and some of the negative things that happened in the 20th century. I think were necessary steps. And if we had not had those, maybe we wouldn't be here today.
Or
so
we would,
that's
but
the unfortunate way.
Right. I mean, we would be here, but it would be different. It wouldn't be obviously what, who knows? It would definitely not look the same and sound the same for sure. So
yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Yep.
Well, listen, AMIR, I want to thank you so much again for your time. I think that, what you're doing here is interesting, and it's definitely something that you don't see a lot. And I hope, for you guys, I hope it gets successful, and I hope it gets really out there and that people know about it. I definitely think you're hitting the right generation for sure. I mean, I think as long as you get the marketing done right, I think you guys are going to get it out there where it needs to be gotten.
Yeah, definitely. It comes down to execution for us, and if this gets executed properly, our core foundation, what we're doing, nobody's doing it,
right.
And so there's definitely an opportunity. And we're all very, very excited, and we appreciate all the support.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to give it to you, my friend. So again, if people want to download this app, it is live and it's on most app stores, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so you just type in the number 4 and B to look it up, 4B, but it's on App Store, it's on Google Play Store, and then we're on 4B.world. And you create an account, and like I said, by December, we'll have our just enormous enhancements to the platform that really will help us take off. And
right.
we also want to the next steps will be getting our own journalists kind of in strategic areas and really, really growing as a network and credibility. Right. And so again, it's a grassroots movement, and we're really excited.
Fantastic.
And we appreciate all the support.
Thanks a lot, Amir. You have a great night, my friend. Thanks for coming by.
You too.